Story 1. Chuckles non-fungible token profile pictures. Man, remember when every single thread was just neon monkeys and people arguing about the blockchain? It was like a collective fever dream for a year. Now if I see one, it's like spotting someone still wearing a keep calm and carry on shirt in 2026.
The best thing about non-fungible tokens is that we have public records of a bunch of insufferable rich douchebags losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Chuckles.
And now, those same people are adamant that AI is going to change the world and replace the jobs of everyone who made fun of them.
It's paying money for a receipt that says you own some digital product. You don't. You just own a receipt that says you do.
Story 2. The arrows on the floor in stores that were supposed to make aisles one way, but everyone ignored them. Plus the dots for lines to try to make everyone stand 6 feet apart. And limiting how many people went into a store at once. And masks and hand sanitizer at the entrance of every store. The early pandemic still feels like a fever dream. I can't believe it was 6 years ago.
My local grocery store never took any of that down. It even still has the faded, no more than 5 people in the store at a time sign on the outside. It's eerie. Chuckles.
I actually liked the whole 6 feet apart thing. I don't know why, at stores, people want to stand so damn close to me. Like, back up a couple inches at least.
Whenever I see vestiges of painted footprints 6 feet apart outside stores, I take a picture to document it.
Story 3. Working from home when you're contagious with a respiratory infection, instead of hacking up a lung in the office. Chuckles.
I wish this one had stuck, and I'm really disappointed it didn't. The level of martyrdom where I work is unbelievable. I'm so sick, but I'm just manning up and getting on with it. Because nothing says masculinity like spreading respiratory illnesses. If this was a new concept, you have a sick work colleague. It's not essential they are there. However, you just have to go in and sit there until they infect you. Nothing you can do about it. It would sound absolutely insane to people.
The usage of sick time when people were working from home went way down. The obvious explanation is that if you were sick but could still function, you could still make the commute to your desk in the other room. You didn't have to be presentable, didn't have to worry about infecting others, and you could easily call it a half day if you had to go puke your guts out, without worrying about how you were getting home if you got worse. But holy crap. I've seen some bootlickers just claim that's proof that most people who call out sick are just faking it.
I worked as an admin in a hospital during COVID. It was back office admin with no face-to-face interaction with people, just doing spreadsheets and data entry. But I was told I was still a frontline member of staff, so I had to go into the office even during the time of bubbles and limited outdoor time. Most of the higher-ups in our team were working from home on laptops. I was told they didn't have the funding to provide me with a laptop, so I had to be on site. Until I got COVID, at which point I was told that rather than going off sick, I would need to work from home on my personal PC. So for the duration of my bout of COVID, they were happy for me to work from home and carry on with my work. Until I improved, then I was told I would have to return to the office. They emphasized that using my personal device was inappropriate and that I would face disciplinary action if I used it as an alternative to being in the office. Bending the rules when it benefited them, threatening punishment when it stopped benefiting them. And that was the NHS, the National Health Service, which should have been the leading example of prioritizing safety in times like that.
Story 4. Among Us. God, that was such a great social lifeline during quarantine, and it was a huge boon to streamers, especially with how it made for easy collaborations. I know there was talk of an animated show happening at some point, but I haven't heard anything in a while.
I'll miss a few years ago when my little guy, who didn't understand the game, liked seeing them and called them Mungus. He was a purple Mungus for Halloween.
I tried it, and every lobby was filled with literal 12-year-olds doing middle school things, thinking it's funny to be disruptive, and holy shit, I don't want to go back to my old homeroom.
Among Us is still quite popular among certain demographics. There's a YouTube group called The Sidemen who pull in crazy views consistently with their Among Us videos.
Story 5. Animal Crossing Island Tours on YouTube. Damn, that game came out at the perfect time, even though they released it incomplete to take advantage of the timing, lol. There certainly still are island designers and people who tour the islands. It's just not such a craze.
I'd been playing Animal Crossing basically my whole childhood, ever since the GameCube, and I didn't know anyone other than my grandma and sister who also played. I was so happy when it became popular during COVID because I was finally able to play with all of my friends.
My boyfriend, now my husband, bought me that game when it came out because I was laid off like many other people. 6 years later, I still play it and have thousands of hours logged. Sometimes when I'm playing it, he'll remind me that it's the best gift he ever bought me.
The amount of time I wasted watching villager hunts on YouTube. Chuckles. My husband still plays Animal Crossing. New Horizons almost daily, though. I haven't played in a year or two.
Story 6. Stockpiling toilet paper for the impending apocalypse. Thank God I didn't end up shitting my pants.
My mom always has at least one Costco-sized backup of toilet paper, paper towels, deodorant, and so on. And often more than one, because you never know when you'll run out and can't get more. We've always teased her about it. Chuckles. Then 2020 hit, and I eventually ran out of toilet paper. I had to call her and pick up some from her stash. The look on her face through the window as I grabbed it from the porch and admitted she was right. You win, Mom. You win. Laugh softly. Now, I also keep a Costco-sized extra pack of toilet paper, paper towels, and toiletries in my basement.
I really lucked out and coincidentally got a bulk pack of wet wipes on clearance right before the lockdown hit. I was living like a king while the rest of you were fighting over your dry squares.
I accidentally had 2.5 Costco-sized packs of toilet paper. One pack got put into the wrong storage spot in the garage. I also had 2 giant bottles of hand sanitizer. I think they were each 64 ounces or 1.8 liters that I got on sale a few months before the pandemic hit. I was COVID rich.
Story 7. Getting a puppy during the lockdown and then realizing they can't look after it when restrictions were lifted.
In my line of work, we call them pandemic puppies. Just pandemic dogs now, I guess, since they're about 4 or 5 years old. They usually have separation anxiety when away from their families. They weren't socialized properly to other people, dogs, cars, or anything because everything was on lockdown. Now, they're maladjusted dogs that require extra care in many circumstances. Not all dogs acquired during that time, but there was enough of a difference to notice it. People talk about how COVID negatively affected kids in ways that carry through to today, but a version of the same thing happened with dogs when they were kids too.
I have a pandemic puppy. My husband and I were essential workers and didn't quarantine, so our pup spent a lot of time home alone for 4 to 6 hour periods. Chuckles. I'm so happy he doesn't have separation anxiety, but it's hilarious that I now work from home and I'm with him 24/7. He's probably sick of me and wants his alone time back.
I have a job where I can work from home when the weather is bad, and since I rarely take time off the rest of the year, I have extra time at home during the holidays. My cats, normally very affectionate, make it abundantly clear when I'm home too much and cramping their style. It's hilarious when the more expressive one walks into a room and looks at me like, Chuckles, oh, you're still here. Don't you have somewhere to be?
Story 8. A friendly fuck you for making my brain have to process the early 2020s. What do you mean early?
2020? Surely they'll have flying cars by then. Chuckles, remember last summer when Independence Day came out?
I know. A Gen Zer asked me recently what it was like to be in my 20s in the 2010s. I never thought of it as the 2010s. I was just living it.
Coming to terms with the fact that in less than a month, it will be 6 full years since most shit shut down is horrifying.
Story 9. Pickleball in retail spaces is on its last legs. It'll be the answer to this question in 3 years.
The recent small-town drama in my neighborhood was that pickleball at the senior center was suspended for 1 month because of all the heated competition and arguing among players. Imagine being in your 80s and still getting grounded. Chuckles.
A friend of mine owns some pickleball courts, and he says the insurance costs are astronomical since it's a sport for out-of-shape old people. Chuckles. Apparently, the injury rates are off the charts.
My local crafting store has been steadily marking down all the pickleball merchandise lower and lower and lower, and still there are no takers at 90% off. Chuckles. It is wild the way pickleball took over every tennis court and then vanished.
Story 10. scanning a QR code as proof of vaccination on your phone to get into restaurants and sporting events, and carrying physical vaccination records before they implemented the QR codes. Story 11. People standing 6 feet from each other. Now, I can be in a line with only 3 people in the entire store, and the person behind me will stand close enough that I can hear them breathing. Why? Why are you standing so close to me? Story 12. The whole Clubhouse era. Everybody was in invite-only audio rooms for like 5 minutes, then it just vanished.
Mentally combine Reddit and podcasts, since I guarantee that was how it was pitched to investors. Topic-divided rooms for audio-only open discussion.
I remember being in a Clubhouse room with Dame and John from Shark Tank and a few other sharks and hundreds of other attendees. He told a 3 to 4 minute story that just ended up being the dad joke about his shoelaces having drugs in them because he'd been tripping all day. Simpler times.
Dumb. I miss Clubhouse. It was good while it lasted. Its lasting legacy is that I ended up in a bunch of rooms with Elon Musk, and the scales fell from my eyes.
Story 13. Searching far and wide for N95 masks, hand sanitizers, Clorox wipes, and toilet paper. Story 14. Quibi. It was short-form content, like 5 to 10 minute shows you watch on your phone. TikTok was exploding right when it released, and then the pandemic happened, and it went away pretty much instantly. Story 15. Working in the hospital, at first we saved our masks in bags. Then they sanitized them 7 times. I took pictures because I knew they would deny it.
Ours were kept in the plastic clamshell you might get with takeout food. Clear on top, black base. They might have sanitized the masks by heating them in an oven or whatever, but the makeup stains on the masks were forever.
Story 16. Banana bread. There were banana shortages in my area for about a month before people moved on to the next pandemic food trend.
With flour being in short supply the entire time because everyone was suddenly Martha Stewart. I was trying to do what I've always done and couldn't get flour to save my life a few times. Well, here I am, bitches still baking. How's your sourdough starter now, Carol?
Story 17. The cloth bags from Target that you got when you placed a pickup order, and all the discounts and freebies you got from various online retailers and restaurants. Story 18. Remember how many people were posting not to use the 2-digit abbreviation for the year because somebody could add 2 more digits on the end and make it a different year? That was all over Facebook in January and February. And suddenly it vanished.
I bought a house in June 2020, and they made us date the closing paperwork signatures with a full year for this reason.
Man, I thought we were using 4-digit years ever since Y2K. Chuckles, whoops, I'm always behind. I used scrunchies and wore baggy jeans for 20 years too long as well, so it tracks for me.
Because it was only relevant for the year 2020. Adding extra digits to 21, 22, and so on is pointless.
Story 19. Being nice to each other. That sounds facetious, but there was genuinely a moment there where it felt like everybody was really starting to get the everybody is fighting a battle you know nothing about and doing the best they know how thing. Also, believing the kids were all right.
I live in a red state. People didn't get nice. They stopped bothering to be nice just for decorum's sake. They got really nasty and openly hateful. It's still like that.
This was the complete opposite of my experience. People became more openly hateful, bigoted, violent, and angry, even in my generally progressive area. It was like a pot that had started simmering in 2016 boiled over in 2020. People not just refusing to wear masks, but physically accosting people who did. People assaulting service workers and healthcare providers. People who were now emboldened to be openly white supremacist. People calling for the disabled, the elderly, and anyone else at elevated risk from COVID to just die. People tried to violently overthrow our government. People attacking and murdering Black, Indigenous, and people of color, as well as LGBTQIA+ folks. Millions of people died who didn't have to, and millions more have long-term health impacts that we're still discovering because our politicians not only dismantled our pandemic response capabilities, but also convinced a substantial portion of the population that the illness wasn't even real. Some of us were working 60+ hour weeks, still in office or on-site, dealing with all the above from clients, customers, and our community, trying desperately not to get sick and avoid harming our families. While listening to our friends laugh about baking bread and playing Animal Crossing all day on their unsupervised work from home or paid leave, wishing that quarantine would never end because it was so fun.
People were nice for like the first week when people were panicking. Then when the news told them what to think, they flipped out and got mean and stayed mean.
Story 20. Treating essential workers like shit and calling it the price of doing business. You got us once, but you won't get us again. Story 21. The 7 o'clock cheer for nurses. A time when we briefly celebrated our healthcare professionals.
The cheers and clapping were ridiculous and uncomfortable. I hated all of that.
Story 22. Money pieces. The first 2 strips of hair on either side of the face, bleached or dyed a different color from the rest of the hair.
Money pieces are still a thing, but it's thicker highlights in the front of your hair versus more subtle ones everywhere else.
Story 23. In the United Kingdom, at least. Standing on your doorstep, banging pots and pans to wake up key workers for their night shift. Story 24. Chuckles Peloton. Whenever I browse Marketplace or OfferUp, there's always someone trying to get rid of their bike. Story 25. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. They were dumb from the start, and somehow people were buying and selling them for the price of a house or even higher. Even major brands got on board, despite how ridiculous the whole concept was. And now they're all practically worthless. Story 26. Tiger King and the Queen's Gambit. Huge and culturally relevant in 2020, due to being the first big shows released in the first few months of the COVID lockdowns, but rarely talked about ever again. Story 27. It's gotta be QR code restaurant menus being treated like cutting-edge tech instead of a mild inconvenience, especially if you didn't have a great phone. Story 28. Wearing a mask over your mouth but not your nose, essentially negating the purpose of the mask. Story 29. Dropping off the kids at daycare without ever meeting the teachers. My daughter was born in December 2019. She started daycare during lockdown. I was never allowed in the daycare. I just left her at the front door with a masked person. Story 30. Wearing a mask or staying home when you're coughing or sick. We have 4 people in our department of 10 who are in their corners of our open office, hacking up a lung. Remember COVID screening? Don't make us bring that back. Please.
If we don't test for COVID, then there ain't no COVID management probably.
When COVID first started getting bad, my workplace put out a policy. If you feel sick at all, don't come to work. Cue people calling in for feeling sick, and the admin's reaction was, "We deeply regret this decision." Chuckles.
My job would give you a test and send you home until the results came back. I went home on a Tuesday. It ended up being allergies, but I had to check anyway. And I was out for 2 weeks after getting my negative results because the Human Resources Department was out with COVID and couldn't approve me.
Story 31. Rompers for men. It was super trendy for like 3 months. Then it just vanished. Thank goodness. Story 32. Gal Gadot and celebrities sang that awful cover that everyone collectively hated them for. Also, celebrities complaining about staying in mansions and having everything at their fingertips. Story 33. Walking dates. One of the best things about lockdowns was people meeting up outside for a walk with a cup of coffee, either for work meetings or just catching up.